You think your money makes you untouchable? When I'm buried deep inside you, the only word escaping your lips will be more. When a Kenyan woman dared to tell the most powerful man in South Korea that he needed to learn some respect. The entire Gangnam nightclub went dead silent. She had no clue who he was. She didn't give a damn. Everyone anticipated he would end her that very night. Instead, he sent her orchids every single day for 30 days straight. And when he finally whispered in her ear, "When I'm inside you, the only word you'll remember is more," she couldn't sleep for nights. Because terror had morphed into hunger, and hunger into something far more lethal. Welcome to Miss V Stories, loves. Please like, share, and subscribe. The DJ stopped the track. Every single person in Club Zenith froze solid, witnessing the confrontation between the woman in the crimson dress and the man whose mere name made powerful people shake. Kang Miho placed down his cognac with calculated precision, his obsidian eyes refusing to leave her face. She had collided with him, her cocktail splashing across his $15,000 suit. And rather than begging forgiveness like any sane person would have, she possessed the nerve to accuse him of blocking her path. "You have no idea who I am," he stated softly, his tone carrying a gravity that made his security team tense visibly. "I couldn't care less who you are," Amara fired back, her Swahili accent making her Korean sound beautiful. Basic respect doesn't require money in the bank. Behind her, her friend Sora clutched her arm desperately. "Amara, please stop. That's Kang Miho." The name registered as nothing to Amara. She'd only arrived in Seoul 3 weeks prior, employed as an interpreter for a global corporation. But the way color drained from Sora's features communicated everything she needed to know. Still, something within her refused to cower before this man whose mere presence appeared to consume every molecule of oxygen in the space. Miho rose gradually, his 6'2" frame unfolding with lethal elegance. The masses parted like the Red Sea as he moved toward her, close enough that she detected his cologne mixed with something darker, more threatening. Her pulse pounded against her ribs like a trapped bird, but she stood her ground firmly. "Fascinating," he said quietly, circling her like a shark. "Are you aware what happened to the previous person who addressed me this way?" "I'm guessing you did something overdramatic and unnecessarily brutal," she countered, though her voice trembled slightly. The ghost of a smirk touched his mouth. For 5 years, nobody had possessed the courage to challenge him. People either craved his wealth, his protection, or his execution. But this woman desired nothing from him except an apology he never granted anyone. Something shifted deep in his chest, a locked vault creaking open for the first time since he'd inherited his father's criminal empire. "Your name," he demanded quietly. "Why? So you can put me on some ridiculous hit list?" "Your name," he insisted. And this time there was something altered in his voice. Not a threat exactly, but something that made her flesh tingle strangely. "Amara Achin," she declared, elevating her chin even higher. The following morning, Amara stepped into her office to discover a sea of white orchids blanketing every single surface. Her co-workers stared in absolute shock as delivery personnel kept bringing in additional arrangements. The cards simply stated, "An apology." KM. "These must have cost a bloody fortune," her supervisor breathed. "Who the hell is KM?" Amara crumpled the card, her fingers trembling. She knew precisely who it was and she desired zero part of whatever sick game he was orchestrating. She commanded the flowers be donated to local hospitals, but they persisted in arriving. Every single hour more materialized until the entire floor resembled a botanical paradise. "Send them back," she instructed the delivery guy firmly. "I can't, miss. The purchaser stated if you refuse them, we're to deposit them at your doorstep. He's already paid for deliveries for the complete month." That evening, Amara selected a different route home, paranoid about surveillance. She had Googled Kang Miho after departing the club, and what she uncovered terrified her to her core. He dominated most of Seoul's criminal underworld, though his legitimate enterprises served as flawless fronts. People who opposed him vanished without a trace. Yet, here she stood, very much breathing after disrespecting him publicly. Her phone buzzed with an unidentified number. Against her superior judgment, she picked up. "Did you appreciate the flowers?" His deep baritone sent involuntary chills racing down her spine. How the hell did you acquire this number? I acquire whatever I desire, Amara. Not me, she stated firmly and disconnected. 3 days elapsed peacefully. Amara nearly persuaded herself he had abandoned interest. Then she entered her favorite coffee house to discover him seated at her regular table, looking devastatingly gorgeous in a charcoal suit. The entire establishment was vacant, except for his men positioned discreetly at strategic points. You cleared out the whole damn place, she demanded incredulously. You appeared uncomfortable with the crowds last night. I assumed you'd prefer solitude. I prefer my regular life where crime bosses don't stalk me. I'm not stalking. I'm pursuing. There's a substantial difference. The difference being that when you stalk someone, they typically don't survive to complain about it. The casualness of his threat should have sent her sprinting for the exit, but something in his gaze held her captive. Behind the lethal exterior, she glimpsed profound isolation, a starvation that had absolutely nothing to do with power or currency. One coffee, she stated finally, stunning herself. Then you disappear from my life. He smiled then, a genuine smile that completely transformed his features. One coffee. They conversed for 3 hours straight. She discovered he spoke 4 languages fluently, possessed a photographic memory, and hadn't taken an authentic day off in 5 solid years. He learned she had escaped to Seoul running from a shattered engagement, spoke 6 languages, and missed the Kenyan sunset more than anything on earth. Why me? She questioned finally. You could possess anyone you wanted. That's precisely why, he responded softly. Everyone else perceives what I represent. You see who I am, and you're not remotely impressed. Do you comprehend how long it's been since someone gazed at me without terror or greed burning in their eyes? A week later, Amara caught herself thinking about him constantly. She despised how her pulse accelerated whenever her phone rang, praying it was him. He had maintained his promise, keeping distance after their coffee, but his absence felt incorrect somehow. Then absolute chaos detonated at her workplace. A major client was furious about a mistranslated contract that could potentially cost millions. Amara knew she had translated it flawlessly, but the document had been manipulated. Her supervisor threatened immediate dismissal. The Wanjika contract was sabotaged, Miho's voice sliced through the conference room. He stood in the entrance like an avenging deity in an expensive suit. I possess proof that someone in your IT division altered the digital file after Miss Aching submitted it. Her boss went pale. Mr. Kong, we had absolutely no idea you were associated with this account. I'm not. I'm associated with her. His eyes located Amara's. Anyone who attempts to damage her reputation or career will answer to me personally. Within minutes, the actual culprit was exposed as a jealous colleague who had coveted Amara's position. The matter was resolved, but Amara was absolutely livid. She pursued Miho to the parking structure. I don't need you fighting my damn battles. You are going to lose your position for something you didn't commit. That's my problem to resolve. He pressed her gently against the wall, trapping her with his arms. Your problems are my problems now. Says who? Says the man who hasn't slept properly since you invaded his life. His breath was warm against her face. I've executed men for looking at me incorrectly, Amara. But you stripped me bare with a handful of words. And instead of wanting you dead, I want you desperately alive and by my side. Her breath caught as he leaned closer, his lips nearly touching hers. But then he withdrew, his jaw clenched with iron self-control. I won't kiss you until you request it, he stated roughly. But understand, Fiza, you already belong to me. Your heart recognizes it, even if your mind still battles. And when I'm finally inside you, the only word you'll remember is more. That night, Amara couldn't stop replaying the moment in her head. She touched her lips, fantasizing about what his kiss would taste like, then cursed herself for such ridiculous thoughts. He was dangerous. A criminal. Everything logical reasoning said to run from. Yet when he looked at her, she felt more seen than she'd ever felt in her entire life. Her phone rang at 2 a.m. I apologize for earlier, Miho's voice carried exhaustion. I crossed a line. Why are you awake? I told you. I can't sleep. Haven't been able to since that night at the club. That's ridiculous. Is it? You've rewired something in my brain, Amara. 20 years of careful control, obliterated because a beautiful woman in crimson told me I had zero manners. She found herself smiling in the darkness. You don't have manners. I'm learning them for you. 3 weeks into their strange dance, Amara attended a company gala. She wore a deep purple gown that hugged her curves, trying not to search for Miho in the crowd. He had promised to give her space to think. You look absolutely stunning, a smooth voice said behind her. She turned to find Lee Jae-min, the son of a prominent politician, smiling at her. He was classically handsome, Safia the kind of man her mother would approve of. Thank you, she replied politely, accepting the champagne he offered. Jae-min was charming and funny, making her laugh with stories about his travels. For a moment, she let herself imagine a normal life with someone like him. No danger, no underground empires, no constant looking over her shoulder. Would you like to dance? Jae-min asked, extending his hand. Before she could answer, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Miho stood 10 feet away, his eyes locked on Jaemin's hand. He looked lethal in his black tuxedo, power radiating from every line of his body. I believe the lady promised this dance to me, Miho said smoothly, though his voice carried an edge that made Jae-min step back instantly. I didn't see you on the guest list, Kang, Jae-min said carefully. I don't need guest lists. His eyes shifted to Amara, softening marginally. Dance with me. It wasn't a question. Jae-min excused himself quickly, recognizing the territorial claim in Miho's stance. Amara should have been angry at his presumption, but the jealousy burning in his eyes made her stomach flutter dangerously. That was rude, she said as he pulled her onto the dance floor. That was restraint. What I wanted to do was break every finger that touched you. You can't just threaten every man who talks to me. His hand tightened on her waist, pulling her closer. Watch me. They moved together perfectly, as if they'd done this 1,000 times before. Other dancers gave them wide berth, sensing the intensity between them. You're insane, she whispered, though her body betrayed her by melting into his. Only about you. He spun her, then pulled her back against his chest. Do you think I enjoy feeling this way? Like I might die if you choose someone else? I've never needed anyone, Amara. Now I need you like air. That's not healthy. Nothing about my life is healthy. You're the only pure thing I've ever wanted to protect rather than possess. But you do want to possess me. Desperately, he admitted, his lips brushing her ear. But more than that, I want to deserve you. The next evening, Amara was working late when the lights in her office suddenly cut out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting eerie shadows. She heard footsteps in the hallway too heavy to be the night security guard. Well. Kang's new pet, a voice said in accented Korean. 3 men entered her office, their intentions clear in their predatory smiles. He killed our brother. Now we take something precious from him. Amara's hand found the letter opener on her desk. I'm nobody to him. Lies. He's been distracted lately, making mistakes. You're the reason. Before she could scream, one man lunged for her. She slashed with the letter opener, catching his arm, but another grabbed her from behind. Terror flooded her system as she struggled against their grip. The window exploded inward. Miho swung through like some dark angel, his face a mask of cold fury. What happened next was too fast for Amara to fully process. Bodies flew. Bones cracked. Blood spattered the walls. In less than 30 seconds, all 3 attackers were unconscious or worse. He pulled her against him, his hands checking her for injuries. Did they hurt you? Tell me where they touched you, and I'll remove those parts from their bodies. She was shaking too hard to speak. He lifted her into his arms, carrying her out as his men flooded in to handle the scene. How did you know? She whispered against his neck. I always have someone watching you. I'm sorry. I know you value privacy, but I can't lose you to my enemies. Later that night, after police statements and medical checks, Miho took her to his penthouse. It was the first time she'd seen his private space. All clean lines and dark colorsa except for one wall covered in photos of sunset landscapes. Kenya, she breathed, recognizing the locations. You said you missed the sunsets. I've been collecting photographs, trying to understand what you left behind. The thoughtfulness of it broke something in her. Tears she'd been holding back finally fell. I was so scared, she admitted. He held her tighter. I would burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone hurt you. That's what frightens me. Not you, but what you make me feel. Like I'd forgive you anything, any darkness, just to stay in your light. Then we're both lost, he said roughly, tilting her face up. Because I'd become anything you needed. A better man, a worse one, a different one entirely. She rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was electric, desperate, full of weeks of suppressed longing. He groaned against her mouth, his control finally snapping as he backed her against the wall. Amara, he breathed between kisses. You have no idea what you do to me. Show me, she whispered, then gasped as his mouth found her neck. But even lost in passion, he was gentle, worshipful, treating her like something precious that might break. When clothes started disappearing, he pulled back, chest heaving. Not like this, he said hoarsely. Not when you're scared and vulnerable. When we're together that way, I want it to be because you want me, not because you need comfort. She wanted to protest, but he was right. Her emotions were too chaotic, too influenced by near-death adrenaline. Stay tonight, he said instead. Just sleep. Let me hold you and know you're safe. She nodded, and he led her to his bedroom. In his clothes, surrounded by his scent, she felt safer than she had in years. He held her all night, his body a protective wall against the world. Morning brought new complications. News of the attack had leaked, and suddenly everyone knew about her connection to Kang Miho. Photographers waited outside her apartment building. Her phone rang nonstop with reporters wanting statements. I can make it go away, Miho offered over breakfast. By threatening journalists? By controlling the narrative? Give them a different story. What kind of story? He took her hand across the table. The truth. That Seoul's most feared man fell in love with a translator who dared to stand up to him. Love, she echoed, heart pounding. What else would you call this madness? I think about you every second. I've memorized your laugh, your walk, the way you bite your lip when concentrating. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar, that you call your mother every Sunday, that you cry at animated movies but try to hide it. You've been watching me that closely? I've been loving you that closely. Before she could respond, his phone rang urgently. His expression darkened as he listened. What is it? She asked when he hung up. The Tanaka clan from Japan. They're moving into Seoul, trying to claim territory. This could mean war. Then you need to focus on that, not me. His eyes blazed. You're my focus. Everything else is just noise. People could die because you're distracted by me. People will definitely die if they threaten what's mine. He stood, pulling her up with him. I need you to stay in the penthouse for a few days. My security here is impenetrable. I have a job, a life. Both of which mean nothing if you're dead. Please, Amara. I nearly lost you once. Don't make me go through that again. The next few days passed in strange domesticity. Miho would leave for dangerous meetings, coming back sometimes with blood on his clothes, but his face would always soften when he saw her. She worked remotely, tried to maintain normalcy while living in his world. One evening, she found him on the balcony staring at the city lights with a glass of whiskey. You look tired, she said, joining him. The Tanaka situation is escalating. They want a meeting tomorrow. It could be a trap. Then don't go. He smiled humorlessly. If I don't, they'll see weakness. In my world, weakness means death. I hate your world. So do I sometimes. But it's the only one I know. He pulled her between his legs, resting his forehead against her stomach. When I was 15, I watched my father die because he showed mercy to an enemy. I swore I'd never make that mistake. What if there's another way? There isn't. There's only power and those who wield it. He looked up at her. Except with you. You make me want impossible things. A life where I wake up without checking for assassins. Where my biggest worry is what to cook for dinner. She ran her fingers through his hair. That's a beautiful dream. Stay with me and I'll make it real somehow. I know I'm asking too much. A normal man would court you properly, offer you safety and stability. But I'm not normal. I'm obsessed. Probably insane. Definitely dangerous. But I'm also yours completely and irrevocably. She kissed him then, pouring all her confusion and desire into it. He responded hungrily, lifting her onto the balcony railing, his hands steady and sure around her waist. You make me reckless, he growled against her throat. You make me brave, she gasped back. The meeting with Tanaka went badly. Miho came back with a split lip and fury in his eyes. They wanted 40% of his territory or they'd start a war that would paint Seoul red. Give it to them, Amara said, shocking him. What? Give them the territory. It's just money and power. You'll make it back. You don't understand. Showing weakness in negotiation means every other clan will try to take a piece. I'll lose everything my father built. Then you'll build something new, something better. He stared at her like she'd spoken in tongues. You really don't care about my empire. I care about you, the man, not the crown. Something fractured in his expression. He crossed to her in 2 strides, kissing her desperately. Marry me, he said against her lips. What? Marry me tonight. Tomorrow. Now. That's insane. We've known each other for barely 2 months. I've lived more in 2 months with you than in 30 years without you. He dropped to his knees, pulling out a ring she hadn't even noticed him carrying. Amara Achin, you've destroyed and remade me. Marry me. I need to think. The rejection hit him visibly. He stood slowly, pocketing the ring. Of course. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. She grabbed his face. I'm not saying no. I'm saying give me time to say yes properly. Hope flickered in his eyes. How much time? How about until after you solve the Tanaka crisis without starting a war? Challenge accepted. 3 days later, Amara woke to find Miho gone. A note said he had an early meeting with his lieutenants. She made coffee, trying to shake off the unease in her chest. Something felt wrong. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Achin, this is Tanaka Kenji. I believe we should talk about your boyfriend. Her blood ran cold. What do you want? Come to the old warehouse in Gangnam. Alone. Or I start sending Kong pieces of his men. If you hurt Thema. 1 hour. Don't test me. She knew she should call Miho, but Tanaka would kill hostages if she did. Instead, she left a note saying she went shopping, then took a taxi to Gangnam. The warehouse was exactly as ominous as expected. Tanaka waited inside with 20 men, all armed. Beautiful and brave, he said appreciatively. I see why Kong lost his mind over you. Let his men go. Oh, I don't have his men. That was a lie. But you're here now, which is what matters. Her heart sank as she realized the trap. You're using me as leverage. Smart girl. Kong will trade everything for you. His territory, his business, his pride. Love makes fools of powerful men. He won't come. He's too smart for that. Tanaka laughed. He's already on his way. We sent him a lovely photo of you walking in here. True enough, minutes later, tires screeched outside. Miho entered alone, his face a mask of deadly calm. Let her go, Kenji. Your issue is with me. Actually, my issue is with your father. But he's dead, so you'll do. Tanaka pulled out a gun, pointing it at Amara. Here's the deal. You sign over everything or I paint the walls with her blood. Done, Miho said immediately. Where are the papers? No. Amara shouted. Don't you dare give up everything for me. Everything means nothing without you, he replied, never taking his eyes off Tanaka. As Miho signed the documents, Amara noticed movement in the shadows above. His men were already in position. He was stalling. You know, Miho said conversationally, still signing, my father taught me something important. Never negotiate with someone who threatens what you love. Kill them instead. The lights cut out. In the darkness, chaos erupted. Gunfire, screams, the sound of bodies hitting concrete. Amara felt strong arms wrap around her, Miho's familiar scent enveloping her as he shielded her with his body. When the lights returned, Tanaka's men were down. Tanaka himself knelt bleeding, Miho's gun pressed to his temple. Please, Tanaka begged. I have a family. So do I, Miho replied coldly, then looked at Amara. What should I do with him, love? She saw the test in his eyes. Would she ask him to kill? Would she become part of his darkness? Let him go, she said quietly. But make sure he never comes back. Miho studied her for a long moment, then nodded. You heard her. Disappear. If I see you again, her mercy won't save you. Tanaka scrambled away, leaving Seoul that very night. Miho pulled Amara against him, his hands shaking slightly as they roamed her face, checking for injuries. You came here alone, he said, voice rough with emotion. You walked into danger for my men. I couldn't let people die because of me. You could have died. So could you, coming here without backup. I had backup. I always have backup when you're involved. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. But we need to talk about you making unilateral decisions about your safety. That evening, back at the penthouse, the adrenaline finally crashed. Amara found herself sobbing in the shower, the reality of how close she'd come to death hitting her. Miho found her there. Fully clothed, he stepped into the spray and held her. I'm sorry, she cried against his chest. I'm not built for this world. You're stronger than any woman I know. You faced down Tanaka without flinching. I was terrified. But you did it anyway. That's true courage. He tilted her face up. Though if you ever do something that reckless again, I'll lock you in this penthouse. You wouldn't dare. Try me. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Miho's mother arrived unannounced, elegant and cold as winter. She took one look at Amara and her lips pursed. So you're the reason my son has been making emotional decisions. Mother, Miho warned. Don't mother me. Do you know what people are saying? That the great Kong Miho has gone soft over some foreign woman. They can say whatever they want, he replied evenly. But Amara saw his jaw clench. His mother turned to Amara. How much? Excuse me? How much to leave? Everyone has a price. Amara felt Miho tense beside her, ready to explode, but she placed a calming hand on his arm. There's not enough money in the world, Amara said quietly. I love your son. It was the first time she'd said it aloud. Miho went completely still. His mother studied her for a long moment. You love him, even knowing what he is, what he does? I love him because of who he is with me. The rest we're working on it. Working on it? His mother laughed coldly. You can't reform a man like my son. He was born to this life. Maybe. Or maybe he was waiting for a reason to change. His mother left shortly after, but not before pulling Amara aside. You'll destroy him, she said quietly. Love makes men weak in our world. His enemies will use you against him. Or I'll make him stronger. Give him something worth fighting for beyond territory and power. Naive child. You'll learn. Hopefully not at the cost of his life. After she left, Miho cornered Amara in the kitchen. You love me? He asked, voice vulnerable in a way she'd never heard. Unfortunately, yes. He kissed her deeply, lifting her onto the counter. Say it again. I love you, you impossible man. Marry me. Ask me again when your mother doesn't hate me. That could take decades. Then you better start working on it. 3 days later, Amara returned to her apartment to get more clothes. Miho was in a meeting he couldn't miss, but he'd sent 4 bodyguards with her. She was packing when she heard commotion outside. Her ex-fiancé copyright from Kenya stood in her doorway, having somehow gotten past security. Marcus, she gasped. What are you doing here? I came to save you from yourself, he said, pushing into her apartment. Your mother told me about this gangster you're involved with. You need to leave. Now. Not without you. Amara, this isn't you. Dating criminals, living in danger. You don't know me anymore, Marcus. You lost that right when you cheated. That was a mistake. One mistake. This man you're with, how many people has he killed? The question hit too close to home. That's different. Is it? You're really choosing a murderer over me? I'm choosing the man who sees me, protects me, loves me completely. You love the idea of me. Marcus grabbed her arm. You're coming home with me. Let go. Not until you see sense. The door exploded open. Miho stood there, death in his eyes. He took in Marcus's hand on Amara and moved so fast Marcus was on the ground before Amara could blink. Touch her again and lose the hand, Miho growled, foot on Marcus's wrist. Miho, stop. He's not a threat. He's touching what's mine. That makes him a threat. I'm her fiancé. Marcus wheezed. Ex-fiancé, Amara corrected quickly, seeing Miho's expression darken further. Very ex. Miho hauled Marcus up by his collar. You come near her again, I'll send you back to Kenya in pieces. Understood. Marcus nodded frantically and fled. Miho immediately turned to Amara, checking her over. How did you know? Your bodyguards called. They said someone claiming to be your fiancé showed up. Ex-fiancé. I know. But hearing another man claim you. He pulled her against him roughly. I wanted to kill him. You can't kill every man who talks to me. I can try. He kissed her possessively. Move in with me officially. No more back and forth. That's a big step. We've already taken bigger ones. You love me. I worship you. Let's stop pretending we're not inevitable. 1 week later, Amara was officially living in the penthouse. She'd kept her job but worked mostly from home now, Miho's paranoia about her safety still high. They'd found a rhythm dangerous and domestic in equal measure. She was translating contracts when she heard a commotion in Miho's office. Through the door, she heard an unfamiliar voice. The Italians are moving on the ports. Without Tanaka as a buffer, they think you're vulnerable. Let them think that, Miho replied. Misconceptions are useful. Sir, with respect, you've been distracted. The men notice. Some wonder if you've gone soft. Bring those men to me. I'll show them soft. It's not about fear anymore. It's about focus. The Womana. Choose your next words very carefully, Daehoon. She's made you vulnerable. Your enemies know it. They're all waiting for the right moment to use her against you. Amara pressed closer to the door. Then I'll remove all my enemies, Miho said simply. All of them. That's impossible. Watch me. Anyone who even thinks about threatening her dies. Make that very clear. That night, Miho was quieter than usual at dinner. Amara watched him push food around his plate, lost in thought. I heard the conversation with Daehoon, she said finally. His eyes snapped to hers. How much? Enough. He's right, isn't he? I make you vulnerable. You make me human. There's a difference. But in your world, human is vulnerable. He reached across the table, taking her hand. Then I'll change my world. You can't just change the entire criminal underworld because of me. I can try. I'm already working on legitimizing more of the businesses. In 5 years, maybe I can be fully legal. You do that? Give up the power? I'd give up anything that threatens what we have. He stood, pulling her into his arms. You think I care about territory and money? I built this empire because I had nothing else. Now I have you. Your men won't follow a legitimate businessman. Then I'll find new men. Better men. Men who can exist in your world without bloodshed. She kissed him softly. I don't want you to change everything you are. I want to change. You make me want to be better. Later that night, as they lay entwined, Amara traced patterns on his chest. Tell me about your father. Miho tensed. Why? Because he shaped who you are. I want to understand. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, he was brilliant and ruthless. Built the family empire from nothing. But he loved my mother completely, and that love killed him. How? He showed mercy to an enemy who threatened her. That enemy came back and killed them both. I was 15, hiding in a closet, watching through the slats as they died. Oh, Miho. I swore that night I'd never let love make me weak. Then you walked into that club and destroyed 20 years of walls in 20 seconds. I'm sorry. Don't be. Those walls were a prison. You set me free. The next morning brought chaos. News broke that someone had leaked information about Miho's operations to the police. Several of his legitimate businesses were being raided. It's planted evidence, he told Amara, pacing the penthouse. Someone's trying to destroy me through legal channels. Who? Could be anyone. The Italians. Remnants of Tanaka's crew. Even someone within my organization. What can I do? He stopped pacing, looking at her with something like wonder. You want to help? Of course. You're mine to protect too. He crossed to her, kissing her fiercely. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me. His phone rang his lawyer with bad news. The police wanted Miho for questioning. If he didn't come voluntarily, they'd arrest him. I have to go, he told Amara. Stay here. Don't leave for any reason. Be careful. Always am when I have you to come home to. Hours passed with no word. Amara paced, worried sick. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Miss Achin. This is Detective Park. Mr. Kong has been arrested. He's asking for you. Arrested? On what charges? Money laundering, among other things. He says you have documents that can prove his innocence. I don't have any documents. He seems to think you do. Can you come to the station? Something felt off. Which station? Central. Ask for Detective Park. She hung up and called Miho's lawyer. Is Miho under arrest? No, they're just questioning him. Why? Her blood ran cold. It was a trap. She called Miho's head of security. Someone just tried to get me to leave by saying Miho was arrested. Stay put. Lock yourself in the safe room. Now. She ran to the reinforced room Miho had shown her, locking herself in just as she heard the penthouse door explode. On the security monitors, she watched masked men flood in, searching. Where is she? One shouted. Find her. He'll trade everything for the girl. She recognized the voice. Dehyuna Miho's own lieutenant had betrayed him. She typed frantically on her phone, sending Miho their location, then settled in to wait. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. On the monitors, she watched Daehoon's men destroy the penthouse, searching for her. Then, like an avenging angel, Miho arrived. The fight was brutal. Miho moved through the men like a force of nature, pure rage given form. Daehoon tried to run, but Miho caught him at the elevator. You betrayed me for what? Money? Power? For survival. Daehoon gasped. The Italians offered me your position if I delivered the girl. You've gone soft, boss. Someone stronger needs to lead. Soft? Miho laughed darkly. I'll show you soft. What happened next made Amara look away from the monitors. When she looked back, Daehoon was unconscious, and Miho was at the safe room door. It's me, love. Open up. She flew into his arms, noting the blood on his knuckles, the wild look in his eyes. You're safe, he breathed against her hair. You're safe. Daehoon is handled. He'll live, but he'll never betray anyone again. That evening, after police statements and cleanup crews, they stood in the destroyed penthouse. I'm sorry, Amara said. This is because of me. This is because of greed and betrayal. Never blame yourself for others' choices. But if you hadn't met Maya, I'd be half alive. Existing, but not living. He pulled her close. Every challenge, every threat, every difficulty is worth it because you're at the end of each day. The Italians won't stop. Then I'll stop them first. His phone buzzed. Perfect timing. The family heads are meeting tonight. All the major players in Seoul's underworld. That sounds dangerous. It is. Which is why you're coming with me. What? They need to see that you're not a weakness, but my strength. That anyone who threatens you declares war on me. 3 hours later, Amara found herself in a traditional Korean restaurant's private room, surrounded by the most dangerous people in Seoul. She wore a black dress Miho had selected as elegant but understated. So this is the woman who tamed the untamable, an older man said, studying her. I didn't tame anyone, Amara replied calmly. I simply showed him he had choices. Choices? Another man laughed. We don't get choices in this life. Everyone has choices. You choose violence. He's choosing change. Change? The Italian representative, Romano, leaned forward. Is that what we're calling weakness now? Miho's hand found hers under the table, squeezing in warning. But Amara was done being silent. Strength isn't just about how many people you can hurt. It's about what you're willing to build, to protect, to sacrifice for something beyond yourself. Pretty words from someone who's never had to make hard decisions. I chose to love someone everyone tells me is a monster. That was the hardest decision of my life. And what did you find? The older man asked, genuinely curious. A man worth saving. Silence fell over the room. Then Romano stood, sneering. This is pathetic. The great Kong Miho, reduced to a lovesick fool. The Italians formally challenge your control of the eastern ports. Challenge accepted, Miho said calmly. Single combat. Tomorrow night. You're out of practice. Too busy playing house. We'll see. As they left, Amara could barely contain her fear. Single combat. What does that mean? We fight. Winner takes the territory. Fight how? Hand to hand. To submission or death. Death? No, you can't. I can and I will. This ends tomorrow. No more challenges, no more threats to you. What if you lose? He stopped walking, turning to face her. Then promise me you'll leave Seoul. Go back to Kenya where you'll be safe. I'm not leaving you. If I die, yeah. You won't die. Because if you do, I'll resurrect you just to kill you myself. He laughed, pulling her into a kiss. I love you too. That night, neither of them slept. They held each other, memorizing touches and whispers, both aware this could be their last night together. If something happens, he started. Nothing will happen. But if it does, know that you gave me more happiness in 3 months than I had in 30 years. Stop talking like you're saying goodbye. He rolled them over, hovering above her. Then let me show you instead. His kiss was desperate, worship and need combined. She responded with equal fervor, pulling him closer, needing to feel alive and connected. When clothes disappeared and skin met skin, it was both ending and beginning. A promise written in gasps and moans. I love you, he breathed against her neck. Show me, she whispered back. He dyed her thoroughly and completely until they were both breathless and tangled, the dawn light painting their sweat-slicked skin gold. They lay afterwards, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Marry me, he said suddenly. You've already asked. I'm asking again. Today. Before the fight. I want to face Romano knowing you're my wife. That's morbid. That's love. I want whatever time we have to be complete. Yes. She lifted her head to look at him. Yes, I'll marry you today, you insane, wonderful man. 4 hours later, they stood in a small chapel. Just them, the officiant, and 2 witnesses from Miho's most trusted men. Amara wore a simple white dress they bought on the way. He wore his lucky black suit. It wasn't the wedding either had imagined, but it was perfect. You realize you're now married to a criminal, he said as they exchanged rings. Former criminal. You're going legitimate, remember? After tonight. After tonight, she agreed, kissing him as the officiant pronounced them married. The fight venue was an abandoned warehouse, a circle drawn in chalk on the floor. Hundreds had gathered, the entire underworld come to witness. Romano was bigger than Miho, muscled where Miho was lean. Last chance to back out, Romano called. Last chance to apologize for threatening my wife, Miho replied. The word wife rippled through the crowd. Romano's eyes narrowed. You married her today. I wanted her to have widow's rights when this is over. Confident. The fight began. Romano had brute strength, but Miho had speed and years of training. They circled each other, testing weaknesses. Romano struck first a heavy blow that Miho barely dodged. Amara watched from the sidelines, her nails digging into her palms. Each hit Miho took felt like a blow to her own body. But he kept moving, kept fighting, his eyes occasionally finding hers in the crowd. 20 minutes in, both men were bloody and exhausted. Romano had Miho pinned, choking him. Amara started forward but was held back by Miho's men. Trust him, one whispered. Just when it seemed over, Miho managed to reverse the hold, using Romano's weight against him. In a move too fast to follow, he had Romano on the ground, arm bent at an angle that threatened to break. Yield, Miho commanded. Never. Yield or I break it. Then break it. Miho looked at Amara. She gave the smallest nod. Instead of breaking Romano's arm, Miho released him and stood. I don't need to break you to beat you. You've lost. Everyone here saw it. Romano struggled to his feet, humiliated but alive. This isn't over. Yes, it is, the older family head from the restaurant said, stepping forward. The challenge was met and won. Anyone who disputes this disputes all of us. One by one, the other family heads agreed. Romano left in disgrace, his claim to the ports dissolved. Miho immediately went to Amara, pulling her into his arms despite his injuries. You let him go, she said softly. You wanted me to. Since when do you care what I want in business? Since I realized you're not just my wife, but my conscience. He kissed her forehead. Take me home. I need medical attention and my wife's tender care. 2 weeks of relative peace followed. Miho kept his word about legitimizing, meeting with lawyers and accountants to transition his empire. But the underworld doesn't release its kings easily. One evening, Amara was cooking dinner when she heard the elevator. Too early for Miho. She grabbed a knife just as 3 men in suits entered. Government intelligence, one said, showing identification. We need to talk about your husband. What about him? He's been remarkably cooperative lately. Giving us information about other families, helping clean up Seoul's underworld. We're wondering why. Maybe he wants out. Nobody leaves his position alive. Unless. The agent studied her. Unless someone gave him a reason. You're his weakness. I'm his strength. Same thing in our world. Here's our offer. He continues helping us, and we ensure your protection. He stops, and we can't guarantee your safety from his enemies or the law. You're threatening me to control him. We're offering partnership. Think about it. They left, but their words lingered. That night, she told Miho about the visit. His expression darkened. They threatened you. They offered protection. Same thing. I'll handle it. How? By giving them what they want? Information, cooperation, whatever it takes to keep you safe. You'd work with the government? Betray your own people? I'd betray the world for you. The next month was a delicate dance. Miho fed information to the government while maintaining his position in the underworld. It couldn't last. Word got out that someone was snitching. Suspicions grew. Then came the news that changed everything. Amara had been feeling sick for days, exhausted and nauseous. When the doctor confirmed her pregnancy, she sat in the car for 20 minutes, staring at the test results. How could she bring a child into Miho's world? But how could she deny him this? She found him in his office, surrounded by papers, looking exhausted. We need to talk, she said. He looked up immediately, alert. What's wrong? She handed him the test results, watched his face transform from confusion to understanding to pure joy. A baby, he whispered. A baby. He was around the desk in seconds, lifting her, spinning her, laughing like she'd never heard before. We're having a baby. We're having a baby in a world where people want to kill you. He set her down gently, his hand moving to her still flat stomach. Then I'll make the world safe. Whatever it takes. Miho, I mean it. No more half measures. I'm out completely. I'll give everything to my lieutenants. Cooperate fully with the government. Become the most boring legitimate businessmen in Seoul. Your men won't accept that. Then they'll have to kill me. But they'll have to go through hell first. The announcement of his retirement sent shockwaves through the underworld. Some called him weak, others smart. A few decided to test whether he was truly out. The first attempt came 3 days later. A car tried to run them down as they left a restaurant. Miho pulled Amara to safety just in time. The second was poison in a gift basket sent to their home. Only Miho's paranoid screening saved them. The third was the worst. Amara was at her doctor's appointment when armed men entered the clinic. Not for her, but for another patient. But the gunfire sent everyone into panic. She hid in an examination room, hands protective over her belly, praying. Miho arrived like a storm. Having tracked her phone, he found her crouched behind an examination table, tears streaming down her face. The baby? He asked frantically. Fine. We're fine. But I can't live like this. Not with a child. You won't have to. This ends now. That night, he called a meeting of all family heads. Amara waited at home, terrified of what he might do. He returned at dawn, exhausted but determined. What happened? I made a deal. Complete retirement in exchange for protection. Anyone who touches you or our child faces the combined retaliation of all families. They agreed to that. After I reminded them how much I know about their operations. Mutual assured destruction if anyone breaks the peace. So it's over? It's over. We're free. 6 months later, Amara watched from the window of their new house, a beautiful traditional home outside Seoul, far from the city's dangers. Her belly was round with their child, and Miho was in the garden planting vegetables of all things. He looked up, catching her watching, and smiled. That soft smile he saved only for her. Stop staring and come help, he called. I'm pregnant, not helpless, she replied, joining him outside. You're perfect, he corrected, pulling her close, his hand gentle on her belly. Both of you. Do you miss it? The power, the danger? How can I miss anything when I have everything? He kissed her softly,